Hey everybody, Mike Miller with the Herald-Times, joined by columnist Andy Graham, coming to you from Evanston at Ryan Field, just outside Chicago. We can actually see the Chicago skyline right
It's just a
down there.
beautiful view
Yeah,
here, folks. I wish you could be here with us and see it. It's gorgeous autumnal colors. The campus of Northwestern is stretching out in front of us, and a beautiful view of the lake.
yeah,
Just azure blue over there, and really, really pretty scene. And it wasn't a very pretty football game from an Indiana point of view today. The IU play did not match the context in terms of the weather and the conditions, and that was apparent early.
yeah, very early. It was really the first time all season we'd seen, frankly, the Indiana defense of old. It was a very poor defensive start to go around with a very poor just overall game for Indiana's offense. More of the same for Indiana's offense, a team that really, really struggling to block right now, even with the return of Dan Feeney. It's a team that, passing-wise, just still hasn't found its footing. With, I think, some of those blocking problems they've had, they're just not running the ball at all, outside of a few big bursts that we saw from Devontae Williams. This is a team that's really, really struggling overall just to really find its soul right now heading into the second half of the season.
Yeah, and there are a lot of issues, and quarterback play is one of them right now.
It is.
Richard Lego wasn't good enough today.
No.
And he overthrew some balls early, almost seemed to overcorrect and started throwing balls short afterwards. The first Northwestern had two interceptions today, both of which were spectacular one-handed catches. The first one was really an underthrown touchdown. I mean, Timian had a couple of strides on the guy.
Yep.
And the ball was underthrown, and the guy made a great one-handed snatch of the interception. Took it right off of Timian's chest. Now, Timian was trying to adjust to the ball, so he wasn't maybe ready to fight for it when it arrived. But for whatever reason, the Northwestern kid outfought him for the ball and just took it away. And then, there were a lot of other times when there looked like there were plays there to be made, but the execution wasn't there. But yeah, I mean, what you mentioned about the offensive line is really kind of the thing right now because it doesn't matter what you call if you can't block it, it isn't going to work. And I had no issue with the play calling today generally. I didn't think it was. I criticized them a bit last week about that. I don't really have an issue with it today. It's just that the execution wasn't there, and there were open guys. Their Northwestern secondary is banged up. They came into the game dead last in the Big Ten in pass defense. They had a cornerback turned wide receiver back to cornerback guy out there today. Indiana tried to exploit that. They threw a lot at the cornerbacks, but didn't always throw accurately.
And some receivers drop balls too.
That too. I don't want to lay it all on Lego, but the quarterback has to be better. And once again, he's adjusting. It's a tough thing. I mean, you're coming in from junior college, and I don't want to harp on it too much. I mean, but playing quarterback in this offense, playing quarterback for Kevin Wilson is a demanding thing. I mean, one has to kind of get over the hump and master it, and it takes a little while. I think for most folks, it took Nate Sudfeld a little while. So I mean, but Lego needs to get it together and needs to start playing better. And the entire offense needs to start playing better, or the team's going to continue the struggle. And it's got to be really frustrating for Indiana fans who've been waiting years to see halfway decent defense being played, thinking that, hey, if that ever happens, the Hoosiers should really go to town because they're always going to be able to score as long as Kevin Wilson's coaching here. All of a sudden, the Hoosiers can't score. Yeah. I mean, they ended up with over 400 yards of offense today. And as Kevin Wilson pointed, they had one touchdown. As Kevin Wilson pointed out, he said that it's going up and down the field 4 times and only having one touchdown. I mean, their red zone struggles continue. Their fourth down struggles continue. They were a little better. I think they were about 50% on those today. So they made some play. But once again, not when they really had to. It's 4th and 2 at the end. They have to score a touchdown. They need 2 scores. And that play really had no chance. It was bad execution. I mean, it might have been a good play call. It was going to be like a back shoulder throw to Ricky Jones. And when Lego didn't have to hurry it, for once he wasn't under pressure. But it looked like he threw it early, and Ricky wasn't ready to react to it yet, and it just had no chance. And so we've seen way too much of that if you're an Indiana fan today and recently from the offense. And if the fans are frustrated, imagine how the offensive guys, the coaches, and the players feel about it, because they've always had a little bit of swagger and a little bit of confidence ever since Kevin Wilson got it going here a little bit, and justifiably so. I mean, Indiana's been a really good offensive team under Wilson when healthy. When they had a healthy quarterback for years now. and all of a sudden, not so much.
It's not to harp too long on Lego. But it's a real concern now that you're in the second half of the season, and he's obviously the quarterback because of his arm. I mean, of the choices, he obviously has what we believe is the most polished arm. I like what we saw in fall camp from Austin King. Mm-hmm. Certainly a better arm than Xander Diamont. But with that arm, he's just not making the throws. He's not making the dump-off throws. He's not making the short crosses over the middle throws. Not consistently enough. The deep ball, which was supposed to be a little bit of, frankly, his forte, it's not there. And that, I think, is a significant issue that, they're going to have some real serious decisions to make this week, I think.
Well, maybe. I don't know. I mean, he's been, today, for example, you get behind. I mean, Northwestern had scored 92 points in the previous 2 weeks at Iowa City and at East Lansing, and they looked every bit of that in the first quarter. They just roared down the field twice for touchdowns. They had something schematic going where Marcus Oliver, the Indiana middle linebacker, ended up matched up against Austin Carr, the Big Ten's leading receiver, and that ain't going to work. And Northwestern's second TD, I think about a 34-yarder, was just a post pattern to or a seam pattern to Carr. That it's not. I don't blame Marcus Oliver at all. It's like that's just not a matchup that he's going to be able to be competitive with. So so there were some schematic things, and to Indiana's credit, in terms of the defense, the coaches and players both. I mean, they from about just after the start of the second quarter on, probably they played winning football. They played good enough to win. They played well enough to win the game.
Block another punt.
They blocked the special teams, but that was Ricky Jones. As a matter of fact. But yeah, I mean the defense and the special teams set it up on a tee for the offense, and Northwestern scored 24 points. I mean that's a winnable game for Indiana, and really Indiana didn't get as close as the final score indicates because the offense can't score. The offense is just in having doldrums right now, and I guess if Indiana fans want some hope, I think there is some in the sense that there is still talent on that side of the ball, and this coaching staff can coach offense. I don't have any doubts about that. They just got to figure it out a bit. I mean, Dan Feeney came back today and played, probably about half the snaps, I would think. But probably wasn't quite full go yet.
Said he was really tired.
Tired. I mean,
he played 60-40.
He missed a lot of time. He missed a lot of time, so he's got to shake a little rust off. But eventually, I expect Indiana to get it together offensively. I think it's going to happen at some point. But Lego has to play better. I mean, the quarterback has to play better. The offensive line has to block better
as a whole. Yeah.
And if that happens, and I think both of those things are possible. Okay, that's what I think. And if those things happen, then all of a sudden we could be singing a different tune. But right now, Indiana's 3-4, and has two really huge games coming up that they pretty much have to win. I think
to really have to
turn the season in the direction they want it to go. They're going to have to beat Maryland at home, and that's not going to be easy. And then Rutgers got way behind today, and then roared back and nearly beat Minnesota on the road. And Minnesota, I think, kicked a late field goal to win. I think I heard. So once again, it's not going to be easy, but this Indiana team has talent. They've just had kind of a rough go of trying to get their act together on offense, and that's unusual for a Kevin Wilson coach team, and I think that it'll be addressed. Whether they fix it or not remains to be seen, but they need to fix it like now, because next week they have to win that game.
It's a must-win game. You're at home against a Maryland team that, frankly, you should beat. First-year head coach. They've looked vulnerable. Their early wins were.
Well, they went 5-0.
Were built. I mean, they were beating Howard and FIU, sure. and they were beating Purdue 50-0 at home. I mean, it's an eminently winnable game. Another beatable opponent. This was a beatable opponent that they have to start taking advantage of. They got to get their stuff in order and fairly fast.
Almost all these games have been winnable.
Yeah,
I mean, even Ohio State was conceivably winnable. They almost made that a one-possession game with 10 minutes to play, but the offense once again couldn't capitalize. I mean, and when you're playing somebody like Ohio State, you obviously cut them some slack and say, well, that's a really good defense they're playing, and you're not always going to come through and make a play against
that was certainly
defense.
It was on curve.
But Nebraska's a good defensive team. Northwestern's a good defensive team, but they're not overwhelmingly good. I mean, it's not like if Indiana scores 14 points and 2 of those came on a safety, that was given. It was Northwestern took an intentional safety at the end of the game. So Indiana scores 12 points. That's just, by Kevin Wilson standards, that's just shocking. It's just shockingly, when you're not playing, a top 5 team or something like that, that's a shocking number for Indiana. They're just they're not getting in the end zone. They're not getting their red zone stuff remains a struggle. And it's just until that changes, they're gonna have a hard time winning games.
Well, that about covers it. Unfortunately, that's about it. 24-14 here from Evanston. Back to Bloomington next week against Maryland. 3:30 kick at Memorial Stadium. We'll be there. We'll talk to you guys then.
Thanks. See you.